Hey, welcome back to the Big Red Zone. We are very excited for today's show. Remember, new episodes come out every Thursday. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the like button on this video as well as all our other videos. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Big Red Zone. And as always, tell a friend. This week, we'll break down, it was fantasy football finals, but it was week 17 in the NFL. We'll break down some games from that. Patriots not officially out yet. They win, they get move on. So we talk about that game and what it means for next week. Break down our fantasy football season and a little bit of college football this week. All that and more in this week's episode of the Big Red Zone. Welcome to the podcast. This is the Big Red Zone. I'm the host, Big Red. As always, I'm joined by Danny Football.
Happy New Year's, Big Red.
Happy official New Year, Danny Football. Officially 2023. It's going to take me about 2 months just to write a 3 instead of a 2 on all my, all the different various paperwork that I got to fill out. How was your New Year's?
It was good. It was good. Watched some great college football games. I know you were deprived of that, but
I was.
good little housewarming with the friends. Got to see the new pad. Got to have a good time and stayed safe. Most importantly, stayed safe.
Most importantly, more of the same, Danny Football. As you said, I watched a little bit of Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve. Didn't get too much of the college football taste, but it was still a great night nonetheless. Great friends, great company, and then followed that up with our sponsored event of the Polar Plunge. Dove in there in Bourne, Massachusetts. Got a little cold, got a little wet, and it was a good cause, good time. And I don't know officially what they raised for money for the event, but it was still it was a fun time, and good. It was always a good time, good cause. And then I came home from the Cape and took down the Christmas lights outside, and slowly taking stuff down from inside and getting back to a little bit of normalcy after New Year's and Christmas.
Here we go.
A lot of NFL football for me on New Year's Day. Watch a lot of football that day at various games. Obviously, watch most of the Pats game. We went out for lunch, so I got to watch most of the first half of the Pats game. Then we drove home, so I missed the exciting second half. Saw some highlights, but missed the exciting second half. But watched, some of that. I had people playing in the Packers game, so watched some of the Packers game, and there was the other game that was on that time. I think it was the Seattle game. So, yeah, it was good day, and like I said, most importantly, stayed safe.
So bless you.
Excuse me. I got through that just in time because I wasn't going to make it any further. I was like, I got to get through my sentence so then I can sneeze. But without further ado, on that note, let's move on to our first segment of the new year.
Nice.
Weekend recap.
It's the weekend recap.
So for weekend recap, we break down 3 games from this past NFL week. We're going to start with our old friend Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating up on the Panthers. They win this game. 30-24. Bucks clinch the division and a playoff berth. Vintage, I think, Tom Brady game, but also vintage Mike Evans game. Tom Brady finishes this game with 432 yards and 3 touchdowns, and also 3 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. Mike Evans finishes, though, with 10 catches with over 200 yards. He finished with 207 and all 3 passing touchdowns from Tom Brady. General reactions from this game, Danny Football, with the Tampa Buccaneers beating the Carolina Panthers and going to the playoffs.
A classic Tom Brady performance. You had it. He kind of turns back the clock. Reminds everyone that he's still doing this at a very high level. This could be a team that is concerning heading into the playoffs. If I'm one of those higher seeds, I'm a little bit concerned about Tom Brady catching fire at this time. I think a couple weeks ago we were ready to bury the Bucks, but obviously experience wins out. You just got to put a couple weeks together and you're good to go. So I think the Bucks are right there. Do I think they can win a Super Bowl? I'm not entirely convinced just yet, but this is definitely a team that could make a lot of trouble for those higher seeds, especially if it's the Eagles are dealing with injuries, the Cowboys are improving. So when you kind of work your way down those seeding lists, it can get dangerous if you're seeing the Bucks in the second round.
Completely agree. And the crazy thing is, since the Bucks are going to be win their division, they're going to have the home game. So I think we talked about it last week. I think they're going to end up probably with the Cowboys. So they're going to have to probably play the Cowboys at home. Like, I don't know. I don't want to play Tom Brady when that team's getting hot. I don't want to play that offense when they, we didn't really talk about him because he was kind of outshined by, the 3 touchdowns and the 207 yards from Mike Evans. But Chris Godwin had 9 catches, 120 yards. Like he was just as, and he had big catches in that game, just as dynamic in that game. And if Brady's got both those guys going, plus you mix in a little Russell Gage, mix in a little Leonard Fournette, a little Kate Otten. Oh yeah, he's got Julio Jones that can make like big plays like here and there. This Bucks team is dangerous. It's a dangerous, dangerous team. And I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. I figured they were going to get in, and it wouldn't surprise me if this Bucks team made it to, made a little run. I'm not saying they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, but I wouldn't be surprised if this Bucks team, we're thinking they're going to lose round 1 against the Cowboys. Say the Cowboys are known to choke, they lose, and then they end up making it to the next round, and then all of a sudden they're a game away from the conference finals. Like I just see this team as one of those teams that is just like, all right, they won this week. They'll see how they do next week. They'll probably rest some guys because I don't think they can improve any way or the other. But Tom will probably play. He'll probably play more than half the game, and I think this team can make a little run here. I believe until I'm proven wrong about Tom Brady and this offense, I think this team will make a little run going into the playoffs.
That's a very, very safe assumption.
The other thing, I don't really have too much to say about the Panthers side of things because that team 6-10, they're having struggles. They didn't have an identity on the offensive side with quarterback. They got rid. They bring in Baker Mayfield. They get rid of Baker Mayfield. They have Sam Darnold. He gets hurt. They don't play Sam Darnold even when he gets back. They're thinking PJ Walker. You know what I mean? They're all over the place. They're thinking draft. They're thinking, I don't know what they're thinking. They trade away their best player in Christian McCaffrey midway through the season. So they're kind of in rebuild mode. Am I crazy to say, and you can tell me, call me crazy. I trust your judgment. Am I crazy to say that I think they should build on Sam Darnold? I like maybe
I feel
not
like
build.
I feel like they were in this exact position last year where he had a good string of games and then it kind of fell apart again. So I'm kind of hesitant to agree with you just because I don't know if it's so much he's back and he's good to go or if he's just kind of a streaky guy and he just can string a couple good games together. I think the jury's still out on Sam Darnold as a franchise quarterback.
Fair enough, but did they build around Sam Darnold? Like, I feel like they've just taken from him since his time in Carolina. Like, they didn't add anyone on the offensive side that makes him better. They've taken away one of his best, and I don't know if it was really working between him and Christian McCaffrey, but I don't know. Like, they're going to have a high draft pick, and I think they're going to be kind of pressured into taking the next quarterback. Maybe they draft a quarterback, but I think if I was them, I'd try to bring someone in with DJ Moore because really he only can throw to DJ Moore. There's no one else really on this team. His second leading receiver was Shi Smith, and it's like, who's that? Like, I just think that I think coming out of college, I thought he was overhyped, but I still thought he was like a very good quarterback. I thought he was one of the best in the class still. And I just think if he gives a fair shake, I mean, they're in a rebuild mode anyway, but I think if he gets a fair shake, I think he could make a little, I think he could help the offense. Now, depending on what draft pick they get, maybe they want to draft one of those top quarterbacks, and maybe we'll talk about them in a little bit in the college football segment. It's called a tease there, Danny Football. Best in the biz, best in the
There
biz.
we go.
But I don't know. I think I'm a little crazy to think like Sam Darnold I would want as my franchise quarterback, and I think you're right. I think the jury's still out, but I mean, he has another great day. He throws 3 touchdowns, 341. He puts up 24 points. He does throw the pick. I think I think Sam Darnold will go down as, I don't know. I guess I think I'm off base here a little bit. I was gonna say I think he's one of the most unlucky quarterbacks that I've seen come out of the draft in the NFL. Like he gets drafted to that dumpster fire in the Jets. No one was going to be successful in the New York Jets with that moron head coach. I mean, how many Adam Gase quarterbacks have to like succeed, do terrible, and succeed somewhere else? And then he goes to the Panthers. They win their first 6 or 8 games last year. He gets hurt, I think he gets hurt, and then they start to struggle. Then he's hurt this year. They bring in Baker Mayfield, don't really add anything. And then he's finally gets his chance, and he's kind of he's performing, but I don't know. Maybe I'm off base.
I think it's a I mean it's a possibility. They more than anyone in the league would know what they have with them at this point. But I think the next game we talk about could potentially throw a wrench in any of those plans because of quarterbacks who are now apparently going to be available.
That's very true. I mean, right there. There's going to be so many quarterbacks that I view better than Sam Darnold available on the free agent market, not to mention the drafting market. You know what? You're probably right because the next guy we're going to talk about is available, and also the guy that was lining up across from on Sunday is going to be available. I don't think he's going to be in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform. I think Tom Brady could be on the move, so I don't think he's necessarily going to Carolina. I don't think Tom Brady will go to Carolina, but if he goes to the 49ers, then maybe this person that we're about to talk about will choose somewhere else. So, very good point there. With that said, let's move on to our next game, Raiders 49ers. Obviously, the big news at the beginning of this week, Derek Carr benched. I have my strong opinions on it. I hear because I actually haven't been able to talk to you about this because it came out after the podcast was filmed. What was your first reaction, and maybe how are you feeling now to the news of Derek Carr? Not necessarily taking in what happened on Sunday, like hearing what Jarrett Stidham did, but what is your general reaction to Derek Carr being benched?
Surprised because from what I knew going into that week, he wasn't injured, so it wasn't so much an injury question. And I know they've had a disappointing season, but from what I've kind of deduced, they've stuck by him the entire time. So for me, it's a very questionable move to do this now, especially after, the unfortunate game against the Patriots where we hand them a victory. Spirits are high. You're probably feeling good about yourselves. Hey, we just, stole one. But again, like to stick by the guy for this long, to kind of pull the trigger now kind of seems like a shady move considering he's been that franchise quarterback since 2014.
Something like that, yeah.
For me, it's not a good look to stick by the guy for this long, despite all your struggles, and then pull the trigger on just straight up benching him. Like, not even just, hey, man, we're going to, take you out for the last quarter of a game that we're struggling in. It's just straight up, hey, you're not playing quarterback anymore. Considering that they went and got Devontae Adams to pair him with Derek Carr, this is a kind of a crazy move.
Yeah, and not to mention they're not benching him for maybe he is the future quarterback, but from all intents and purposes, Jarrett Stidham's not the future franchise quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. He's not the Trevor Lawrence or Mac Jones of their organization. He's not even. They don't even have a guy like Sam Darnold or like Baker or another quality starter. It's a guy that's been unproven. They're turning their back on this guy that a year ago to this, like, I think to the date almost, like around a year ago today, we were just talking about Derek Carr and how much of a leader and a rock he was for the Las Vegas Raiders. Remember a year ago, he lost his number one wide receiver, their first round pick of a couple years ago, when he got in the accident, when he hit someone with a car. He was, had his whole thing. He lost his head coach. He's lost. I don't think I read somewhere. I don't think he has an active, beside this year maybe, an active first round pick from the last 5 drafts on his team. They've cut or lost every single one, or a bust on every single first round pick in the last 4 years. Yet there still were, before this year, consistently a playoff or a contending team. They lost their head coach mid-season last year, and they rallied around, the guy who was the guy that was the head coach last year? The interim coach? Was it Del Rio? No, he was a couple years ago. I forget his name, but they rallied around that guy, but also Derek Carr. Derek Carr was the consistent force. Then we get into this year. They bring in Davante Adams. There's a lot of hype on the offense. They bring in Josh McDaniels, who's supposed to finally be the guy. It's going to be his time to shine. And as much as, everyone wants to bury Josh, and he rightfully so, he's kind of made a lot of questionable moves this year. Darren Waller gets hurt. Hunter Renfrow gets hurt, which are 2 of the key pieces of his team that he has chemistry with. But he still has Davante Adams. They have a new Matt Collins. But they struggle, and they give up second half comeback leads. They blow game after game after game. I'm sorry, but I do not put this all on Derek Carr's shoulders. And for them just to turn their back on Derek Carr with 2 weeks left in the season and go to a guy that has been unproven in his NFL career, as much as we love Jarrett Stidham in New England, he's a bona fide backup quarterback, and to just bench Derek Carr, your franchise player, it makes no sense to me. It really is a slap in the face. And like you said, I think you said it best, the shady move. Now they're going to look like Josh looks great because Jarrett Stidham had a good game. What was he? He finished with, I'm trying to pull it up here. He finishes with 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he does throw 2 picks. And he actually ran for 34 yards, which isn't bad for a quarterback. He puts up 34 points on the scoreboard and brings them to overtime against. I think this team's going to. I think the 49ers are going to be in the conference finals or the league finals, whatever they call it. But I just think this is a bad look for the Raiders. I think Derek Carr is probably gone. I think they talked about cutting him, and for a guy that will go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks in this franchise's history, this is a real crappy way to end his tenure with the Las Vegas Raiders. And I take this back to when they were talking about leaving Oakland and there was all that controversy, Derek Carr was the constant too. I forgot to say that in my last bit. Right. He was a constant too. And they just I hate how they're handling it. And I hope he goes somewhere else and wins a championship with a more competent coach.
Yeah, I think we pretty much said all there is to be said. This is not just – it's one thing to move on from a quarterback, but this is a guy who is stuck by your franchise through thick and thin, and to kind of do him like this is unfortunate. And he's going to have a market. This is not the end of Derek Carr.
No. If Russell Wilson at the end of his career is getting, 6 years, like $200 million a year to play football, Derek Carr is going to command big money, and he's getting the support of big name people like Davante Adams. Davante Adams posted something that he was not happy. I'm sure maybe his tune will change when he finished. He finished with 153 yards and 2 touchdowns from Jarrett Stidham, so maybe he's going to be a little more supportive of Jarrett Stidham because he was just basically hawking it to Davante Adams. But I just think this is dirty. They did him dirty. I don't like the Raiders now. I think Josh is getting, trying to push the blame. I don't know if he's trying to do that, but he's trying to push the blame on Derek Carr. Like Derek Carr's the problem, not me. And we'll only save him too long because I think, like we said, when we did the hot seat a month ago, I think Josh is a little more on the hot seat than he was then, but I still think he will get into the second year of his contract because they want to give him a second year, a chance to draft, a chance to do all this stuff. So I hope Josh knows what he's doing because he's kind of to cut out his franchise quarterback. He's kind of starting over, and I know teams aren't going to like that. So I'm not too happy with how that happened. The 49ers, on the other hand, Brock Purdy, I think he starts his career. Is this 4-0 or 5-0 as a starting quarterback? I forget what it is.
Somewhere in
Something like that.
I'd have to assume.
They just continue to roll. Christian McCaffrey has 121 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He also finishes with 72 yards and 6 catches. Brandon Ayuk, my dynasty player that I love so much, finishes with 9 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. This George Kittle also got a touchdown in this game. This team, while they don't have a starting quarterback that I can trust, Brock Purdy may be it, but I don't really trust him, especially in high playoff situations. I think this team has enough to go potentially all the way to the Super Bowl. I really do. I seriously believe that. It's going to be tested against good teams when they get close to the end, when they got to play a team like the Vikings and the good offenses. I mean, like the Vikings and the Eagles. Eagles, I'm a little shaky on too. But I think this team is a more complete team as opposed to those other teams that I have mentioned, like the Eagles and the Vikings. So
No, definitely a more balanced team. The quarterback remains a question mark just because, going into a playoff game, that's a whole different atmosphere. That's a whole different game plan. So you have a question mark there, but between CMC, Debo, the defense, this is a very solid team that even if Purdy can give them like somewhat of a good run from the quarterback position, this is a team that can go deep.
Completely agree. And I like them. They're a very likable team. We talk about teams that we don't like. They're a very likable team. I don't know too many people that are against the 49ers. And I think this team, for some rumors, could be in the market for one of those quarterbacks I mentioned, like Derek Carr, like Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady has a good chance to go there. And if Tom Brady doesn't go there, I think Derek Carr could have a lot of looks from the 49ers. Excuse me. I think he would thrive there. He's got a tight end that he can trust to throw to. Has a lot of weapons, slot guys, deep guys. Christian McCaffrey, another all-star running back that he can work with. I think he would thrive. Any quarterback that I think goes there is going to thrive in this system, especially with Kyle Shanahan as his, the head coach and offensive-minded coach. So I think whoever quarterback, I think that's going to be a hot commodity position for one of these quarterbacks leaving their team.
Yeah, I think the quarterback carousel is going to be pretty strong this offseason.
This is just a side question for me. Who else do you think is leaving? I mean, I think Tom Brady and Derek Carr are obviously big ones that are going to be at the top of the market. Who do you think else is potential big quarterback? Maybe not big signing, but
off the top of my head, man,
think of maybe Baker. Baker could get a look somewhere else.
Baker will end up somewhere else. I don't know how big that is. He's probably going to be a backup.
Our good friend from New York, Zach Wilson.
How many years is? Check something.
Let's think.
Is this a player option or a team option?
I think Jacoby Brissett may get some looks this year too after how he did in the beginning of the season. Probably a backup situation, but I think he'll get some looks. The Titans.
I'm looking at Jared Goff. I'm not sure if it's a team option or a player option after this year, so he could go somewhere else if he doesn't want to stay in Detroit.
I kind of hope he stays, and I hope the Detroit Lions stick with him. I know a lot of people are going to pressure him to, pressure the Lions to move on, but I don't know. I like
The
Derek.
Lions have an out, so it's up to them.
I hope they stick with him because I think he's done a great job for them this year, and he's been doing great down the stretch. He had another big game this week. Another guy to keep a lookout, Jameis Winston, just fell out of nowhere from the Saints. So this was supposed to be Winston's year, and the Saints just kiboshed it. I don't know what happened in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think unfortunately there he got hurt and then somehow fell out of favor with the coaching staff because if don't I mean I love Andy Dalton more than the next guy, but you got to think Jameis Winston gives you a little bit more than Andy Dalton at this point.
Especially at this point in his career, I think you got to look Andy Dalton. The 49ers itself too. You got to look at their Jimmy G is going to go somewhere. He's going to have a little bit of a market. And the big question mark is Trey Lance. What are they going to do with Trey Lance this year? Because Brock Purdy, he's producing. If they bring in another quarterback, they're going to have 3 quarterbacks. I mean, everyone gets hurt in San Francisco, but they're going to keep those 3 guys on the roster. I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah. I don't know.
We'll have to see. It'd be interesting. I know we'll talk about that later, but in another episode, another podcast when the season ends. But I think you're right. I wasn't even thinking about that. The quarterback carousel is going to be in full force this offseason. All right, let's move on to the next game, which is our game, the Pats versus the Dolphins. Pats, we were talking about last week. We thought this was probably a game that they could win, especially because Tua wasn't playing, but they pull it off, 23-21. I would say it's a lot of a defensive game again. Defense scores a touchdown. I thought Mac played pretty well. People are saying that he didn't play well at all, but I thought he played pretty well. 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had some big throws in that game. Damon Harris gets a little active. 32 yards from him on the ground. Had 18 yards and 3 catches in the passing game. Tyquan Thornton gets involved. It's 3 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Jacoby Myers gets the other touchdown from Mac. Pretty balanced passing attack from everyone. But it's mainly a defensive game. No real surprises there. And we keep saying the same thing about this team, so I don't really want to be repetitive saying the same problems because it's the same problems with the team. Nothing's changed. But after this game, the Pats are still alive in the playoff hunt. I'm kind of not holding my breath, but it's amazing to see that as bad as we've been, we still have a shot to make the playoffs.
Yeah, my biggest thing was that the defense has completely carried this team down this stretch. The fact that we're still mathematically in the playoff hunt is crazy considering how bad the offense has been. I've been telling everyone who would listen, we're winning despite Matt Patricia in the offense right now. Mac did play well, but again, if we had an OC with any semblance of how to run an offense, this team would already have a playoff spot clinched. We'd already be looking at who we're going to be playing in the first round, second round, whatever. It's frustrating that I think mathematically it's more likely that we're going to miss the playoffs than get in, but it's frustrating to think we're either going to miss the playoffs because our OC sucks or we're gonna barely scrape by because the defense had to bail our ass out this entire season.
Yeah, if you think, I was gonna say, if you think about it, we've lost 8 games. Of those 8 games, how many of those you could say come down to the last play or couple possession game where the offense just can't get it done, or we call a bad play and the offense just turns the ball over? I mean, I can think of 4. I can think of 4 games right off the top of my head that are games that we should have won and didn't because of the offense. And you could argue if it's because of Mac Jones. I would argue play calling or just simple mistakes that we just didn't get done. Like, I can think of 4 off the top of my head. Those 4 games, instead of, if you win those 4, you're 12-3. Guess what? You have the same record as the Bills, and you're going into Buffalo fighting for a playoff, fighting to win the division, and you're in the playoffs, like you said. You're probably a high seed in the playoffs. You're fighting for the division. The truth is, I don't know what to make of this team because the play calling and the coaching has been so bad. I don't know if Mac Jones is really the problem, and we said that last week. So it's disappointing. Again, I bring back this season's just more disappointment, and you're right. The defense is carried, and it's really disappointing because we wasted another year of a chance to be relevant and make a playoff push.
Yeah. So, like I said, this was. I mean, if we're looking at this game in a bubble, it's always good to knock off a division rival. It's always good to get that division win. But again, however this shakes out, when it's all said and done, whether we barely get in or we barely miss out, it's going to be a question of, man, what could have been if we had an OC, if Mac didn't get put through an absolute blender, if the offense was able to keep pace with the defense. So I'll I'll admit I was wrong when I said this team was dead in the water, because they're technically in it. I was wrong. They're technically in it. But they could be in such a better position if Bill didn't get cute and think Matt Patricia could run this offense, because he can't. And any sort of success is due to the defense and the offense just contributing despite Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia has no positive uptick on this team. 0.
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone post something. What was it this week? They posted something this week where they said, move Matt Patricia to the defense when Gerard Mayo leaves, and move Joe Judge to special teams and bring in Billy O. I'll be honest. Sure. I mean, special teams has kind of stunk this year, so I guess if you want to put Joe Judge on special, I don't think that would ever happen. But if you want to put him on, fine. That doesn't really matter to me. But I don't want Matt Patricia near the field next season. Like, for opening day of the NFL season, week 1 of the Patriots schedule, if Matt Patricia is on the sidelines and has anything to do with this team, I'll be upset, because I think he's just an overrated coach. He stinks. He can't do that job. Some people are good at this job. Some people are not good at this job. I'm not coaching in the NFL. I'm not good at that job. But I think I could do better than Matt Patricia. But I'm not good at that job. There's people that don't have Hackett. Hackett isn't a head coach anymore because he's not good at that job. Matt Patricia is not good at coaching a football team and should be fired. And in any other situation, he would have been gone weeks ago. And it's disappointing because I don't know what we have in this team. And
that's actually a good point that you just brought up, that they didn't get rid of him weeks ago. Imagine if they had. Imagine if at any point Bill says, hey, this isn't working, and maybe you don't even have to fire him. You just move him to a different position. If at any point, maybe it's the Chicago game, I don't know, but if at any point in the middle of the season you think, hey, this isn't working, we need to make a change, who knows where we're sitting right now? Maybe we are contending for the division title. Maybe we already have a spot locked up. So that's a huge another what if. What if we had just made a switch when we could have? Because I'm blanking on what team it was, but a team either this year or in years past, they fired their OC by week 4, and they either have already clinched playoffs or they aren't in playoff contention. And I'm like, well, Bill say it's too late when teams have already done this? So
Yeah.
that's a huge what if for me. Is what if we just moved on sooner?
My only thing that I would say, I would have loved that. I would have rather anyone call the plays than Matt Patricia. My only thing I would have said is I don't know who that would have been because I think it would have been too.
Bill himself could have at least called the offense, I
Yeah,
suppose.
I
But
mean, it couldn't have been any worse than Matt Patricia, but I feel like I don't know if even that was the answer. I don't know.
I
And
feel like
again, it's like
they
you
could
said,
have
it's what
figured
if.
something out, man. I feel like something
Yeah,
could have been figured out. That's that. Yeah, it's frustrating
anything
for
is
me.
better than Matt.
Right.
Anything is better than Matt calling plays. But again, it's another what if season. Um, Patriots still. I mean, I think this is the most people are talking about. If the Patriots win, I mean, the crazy thing is the Patriots control their own destiny. If they win on Sunday, they're in the playoffs. They control their own destiny. The only unfortunate thing is they got to go into Buffalo and beat Buffalo. They could have some help. They lose and then, the Dolphins lose and the Jets win and, this team wins, but this team loses. It's like all these little tie break things. I'm out. I'm not even, I told you last week, even if they won against the Dolphins, I'm still out on the Patriots. I think they're going to lose this week. I'm still out. I'm not a believer in this team. I believe this team is washed. This year is washed. But yeah, I mean, I'm out again. My last note was I'm out on the team and fire Matty P. I'll say that every single day until they actually do it. I'm totally out. So sorry, not too much. I mean, that's the most negative we've been. I'll finish with something positive about the Patriots. Their defense has been really spectacular. Another touchdown for the defense. Kyle Duggar gets the touchdown this week, and a special tribute to potentially Devin McCourty and Matthew Slater's final game in Gillette. This could be their last game. They could be retiring at the end of the year. Unbelievable careers. Two of the greatest Patriots of all time. I'll say that right now. Two of the greatest Patriots of all time. Any closing thoughts on Matt Slater and Devin McCourty?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. Just two cornerstones of the franchise. Obviously, we'll be going to the Patriots Hall of Fame at some point. Just huge parts of this latest Super Bowl run. And maybe they come back for one more ride, but if this is the end, they're leaving on a very, I don't want to say a high note, but at least they're leaving with championships and they had their time.
Yeah, I think Matt Slater may go down as one of the greatest special teams players of all time, and Devin McCourty will definitely go down as one of the greatest Patriots to ever put on a uniform. So nothing to hang their heads on for those two. Unbelievable careers, and kind of sad if it's over, but we'll never know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see at the off season. I think they're done though. I think Matt Slater, Dan McCourty's kind of looked a little like he lost a step this year, but he's still been great. But all right, let's move on to our next segment of the night, picks of the week.
Picks of the week.
So for picks of the week, we pick one game from the upcoming week of the NFL week, and we didn't pick ones before the show, so this is going to be on the spot thinking. Danny Football, who's your pick of the week?
I'm going with my heart over my head, and I'm hoping you follow me on this pick. I'm gonna go Lions over Packers.
Gosh darn it, dude! I was gonna go Lions. That's a big game.
Dude. Join me. Let's do this.
Should we do a co-op?
Let's do it,
pick
dude.
of the
Who
week?
cares? You've already secured the win. Let's do it. Let's will
Well,
this
we'll do
into
it through the
existence.
playoffs. We'll do it through the playoffs. You're not done.
I think we gotta will this. We gotta will this into existence.
We gotta will this into existence. Let's double down.
We gotta get behind the boys here.
Big game because winner goes to the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. We gotta get behind them.
Let's do it. Let's double down on the
Nice.
Lions. This is a big red zone. Double down. This is the first in franchise history.
Let's do it. Big Red who on, I believe it was September 13th, declared the Detroit Lions were a wild card team.
This is what why we play the games, Danny Football. Lions are going to go to the playoffs.
Despite an 0-6 start.
I have
It has
not
breath.
lost a pick of the week since September. I'm putting that on the line for my Detroit Lions. Give me a win, Danny Football. I'm so hyped up about the Detroit Lions. I want them to go to the playoffs so bad. If the Patriots miss the playoffs and the Lions make it, I will be the happiest camper.
On the doorstep, man. On the doorstep. Here we
They're
go.
right there. They have a chance. I'm going to be all Detroit Lions next week.
60 minutes for the rest of their lives.
That's it. That's it. Dan Campbell, make this man a statue and put it in front of Detroit. Something Matt Patricia could never do. Get this team to a playoff game.
Jesus.
Actually, he's already done what Matt Patricia couldn't do. He's got that team. How many wins?
Yeah, he's already won. He might have more wins this season than Matt Patricia had in his entire tenure.
The Lions are 8-8. That's better than any. They're 500, which is better than any career year with the Lions Matt Patricia had. I don't think he ever had them at 500 or better.
Let me see. Hold on.
Fact check me.
How many years was he in Detroit? Not 3.
Less than 3. He got fired in the middle of year 3. Might have been in the middle of year 2.
He went. They went 6-10, 3-12. So that's 9 wins. Did he only do 2 years?
I think he got fired.
Oh no, never mind. Hold on. They were 4-5 when they fired him. So he had 9. He had 13 wins as the Detroit Lions head coach.
So he's already.
That was over 3 seasons.
So my boy Dan Campbell's also had some wins already. He had a couple wins last year. He may have already be tied with Matt Patricia.
Let me see what Dan Campbell's at. Dan Campbell has 16 wins, so he's already ahead of him.
Yeah. Love this guy. I hope the Lions. Well, I'll in on the Lions. Also, I just want to say, Danny Football. I don't know if I'll do this. I don't know if I'll put this flashback to me last week. But I told you last week in our final waiver pickups of the week. I remember I told you this waiver pickup would help you win a Super Bowl. Jags defense comes out and gets 19 points this week in fantasy football and helped Big Red himself win a championship Super Bowl. So I hope you listen to Big Red and picked up the Jags defense because they helped me win a Super Bowl. Let's actually talk about that. Fantasy football season's wrapping up tonight. Danny Football, how was your fantasy seasons overall?
We dropped out of. We had a first round loss in a money league, Rocks league. Just fell apart down the stretch. Couldn't get it done. Didn't make the playoffs there, and then the Big Red Zone league, just a completely disastrous season. So some ups and downs, but overall, it's more about the experience in the end.
Yep. Like you said, if you were a host or a former host of the Big Red Zone, playing in the Big Red Zone Fantasy Football League, you had a terrible year. Myself and Danny Football missed the playoffs along with our good friend James. James missed the playoffs as well. It was a tough year. Wild card of the Big Red Zone history. Rob Marcello looks like he's going to pull off a victory in the Big Red Zone League. It would technically last year was kind of an asterisk win because for some reason Andy got eliminated, even though he beat someone and he would have made it to the championship. And I don't know how the points would have fallen. But technically, Rob won the championship last year, and he looks like he's going to win it this year.
Revenge game for Rob. Revenge season.
So Rob Marcello is, he's great in the Big Red Zone League. I don't know. He's got some great fantasy football players in here, but he performs when the Big Red Zone lights are on. So shout out to Rob Marcello. It's not over yet, but we'll have to see if Ame can make a little comeback. But looks like Rob's going to win that one. Dave football, I have won officially, not before this game even started tonight, 2 fantasy football trophies, championship trophies so far out of the 3 championships I'm in. I'm currently winning in one of my the other fantasy football championship, but it will all come down to tonight. We'll have to see. But Dynasty, I won another championship. I'm the first 2-time champ in that league. And I won the inaugural season of the new Rocks Fantasy Football League. So the most recent season, most recent crop of interns did a fantasy football and staff, I should say, did a fantasy football group league, and I started that league. This is what dreams are made of. Danny football started that league 0-4, win week 5, start 1-5, lose week 6. I'm 2-6. I think at one point halfway through the season, I was 2-7 or 3-8. And I am now the champion of that league. Blew up my team, made moves, worked really hard. So it was a very great fantasy football season. I love fantasy football. I will always love fantasy football, and I can only say I'm looking forward to next year.
Ready to run it back. There it goes.
And that concludes the final fantasy football season of the Big Red Zone. That's it's kind of a sad day. I'm
Had a good
disappointed.
run.
Had a good run.
Had a lot of interesting characters in that one.
A lot of great draft picks, a lot of great waiver pickups in that time. I'm not even talking about the fantasy football league. A lot of just fantasy football, all the waiver pickups of the week in the last 5 seasons. But it made a good run. Made a good run. All right, let's move on. Danny Football is our college football correspondent. He's going to go through some of the big wins this week. And we'll talk about some guys that we're looking for that are something to look out for in the draft. So, Danny Football, take us away. What are some of the big games, upsets, and big wins from this last weekend of games?
Yeah, we're going over our New Year's Eve games here for the Fiesta Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. TCU upsets Michigan, just an insane game. I think a lot of people counted TCU out. A lot of people thought TCU shouldn't have been in the college football playoff. I think a lot of people looked at Alabama and said they had a stronger schedule despite 2 losses. TCU's lone loss came in the Big 12 championship game, a game you have to play, considering that you're at the top of your conference. They had to play that game. Alabama was sitting at home. They didn't play in the SEC championship game. So for TCU to survive the committee and still get in as the 3 seed, play Michigan, who everyone looked at Michigan and said, they're getting a free bye. They're getting a free bye. Michigan gets a free bye. They're going into the national championship game. For everyone to write TCU off, and immediately TCU opens the game with a pick 6. Their defense, you look at the box score, and it doesn't appear to be a very well defensive minded game, but TCU's defense shows up. They don't let Michigan run all over them. Michigan rallies, TCU rallies. It's a very back and forth game, but in the end, TCU takes the win. TCU is going to the national championship. Max Duggan, I have here in the notes. He's a Danny Football guy. We have another redheaded quarterback coming out of TCU, and I'm all for it. Kid's an absolute gamer, puts the team on his back. He's not afraid to get dirty. He's one of those guys that's just going to put his helmet down and get the first down, get the touchdown, whatever he needs it to go get. So a huge win for TCU. Disappointing loss for Michigan. Second year in a row getting to the quarterfinal, getting to the semifinal game and falling short. Last year it was Georgia. This year it's TCU. So Michigan goes back to the drawing board. Another good season for them. But if you're going to come up short here, then kind of have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what else do we have to do? On the flip side, you had Georgia rallying to beat Ohio State. Ohio State misses a game-winning field goal at the stroke of midnight. I missed the ball drop because this game was still going on. This was a crazy game as well. A very suspect no targeting call on Marvin Harrison Jr., who did not return to the game. Georgia drives down the field, scores a touchdown with under a minute left, but you had to wonder if they gave C.J. Stroud too much time. C.J. Stroud puts on a masterclass of a final drive, gets Ohio State well into field goal range, and the kicker just misses it. So high stakes game. Ohio State nearly gets a trip to the Natty off of losing to Michigan a couple weeks ago. they get that second life and just let it slip through their fingers. So we get a national championship game of Georgia, the defending champs, and TCU, who was unranked when the season started, going into this national championship game. So I don't have a rooting interest. Obviously, TCU is the underdog here, so maybe I'm leaning a bit more towards TCU, but TCU is playing with house money. They shouldn't be here. They proved everyone wrong. They beat Michigan in the semifinal game. They have everything to gain from this. I mean, even if they lose, then TCU gets to say we made it to a national championship. I'm sure there are college football. I'm sure there are high school football players out there who will see what the TCU team is doing and say, "I want to play there." So I'm excited for a amazing championship game in a week.
Yeah, I'm rooting for TCU in this Natty Championship. I love an underdog story. I hope TCU wins. They're playing with house money, but uh, it would be something for them to win because I think it would be like Loyola when Loyola made a deep run a couple years ago. Now they're in the tournament every year now. I think this is going to gain them a lot of traction in recruiting and getting people to want to come play with them. It's much like Providence too. Like Providence got that recruit from Kentucky. Like they're getting a lot of guys to come want to play for Providence basketball because of their run last year. So I'm so happy for TCU, and I hope they win it all.
Go Frogs!
Go Frogs! Any guys that you like in this year's draft? Like who's your top couple picks you think are going to be from this actual NFL draft?
CJ Stroud is just he's just a blue chip guy. Obviously Bennett from Georgia. He's a good quarterback. I worry if he's going to kind of fall into that kind of game managery role, but he's a good quarterback. I think he'll definitely get drafted. I just don't know how much of like a raw talent he is compared to a CJ Stroud, who seems like a game changer, very Justin Fields-esque. Then you have Caleb Williams from USC. He had a heartbreaking loss today against Tulane. But yeah, when I look at this draft, it's very, very deep at quarterback. So if I'm looking at Caleb Williams, he just won the Heisman. Obviously, my man Max Duggan, he's a gamer. I'd put him in almost a Jalen Hurts category of he might not be the most raw talented quarterback, but he will win you a football game. So
in the Ian Book category?
No, a little above Ian Book, but definitely I think I'd put him in the Jalen Hurts category because I mean Jalen Hurts was kind of in a similar situation where, no one really looked at Jalen Hurts as being like this franchise-changing quarterback. Everyone thought he was good, but he makes the change to Oklahoma and completely reinvents himself. So I think Max Duggan could be maybe with this run, his stock may go up, but early second, late second, take a flyer quarterback, see what he can bring you. So if I'm looking at this draft, I'm looking at all these quarterbacks.
What do you like? What do you think about Bryce Young? I heard you talk about a lot of different quarterbacks, but Bryce Young was not mentioned in that.
So for me, is he a senior?
He's one of the. I think he's the top.
He's a junior. I didn't know what year he was. I didn't know if he was eligible. My only hang up is that he's an Alabama quarterback. I mean, one Alabama quarterback is leading our team right now, but historically suspect. But former Heisman winner, Davey O'Brien winner. He won the Manning Award as well. So if I'm ranking, I'd go Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Max Duggan, and then I put Bennett at 5.
I like it. What about the Kentucky guy? Kentucky quarterback.
Couldn't tell you who he is.
Is it Kentucky?
Kentucky, no idea who the Kentucky quarterback is.
I forget. He was at the top of the draft. I was looking at Will. Is it Levis or Levi's?
No idea.
He was a transfer for Penn State. He's projected to go in the first round. In a lot of mock drafts I've been looking at, he's been projected to go first round. I like CJ Stroud. He's one of my favorites in the draft. But
he's from Newton, Mass, huh?
Newton, Mass guy. You gotta love the Mass guy.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Next.
Go get him, kid.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of selling me on this Max Duggan. I'll have to look more into him. CJ Stroud, I think, is the best quarterback in the draft. I think, even though people are ranking Bryce Young as the top prospect in this draft, but I don't know. I think CJ Stroud is just a gamer, and he just, especially after that game this past weekend, even though they lost, he just made big throws, and he's not like other normal Ohio State quarterbacks, like Justin Fields and those like athletic, like quick run, like basically running around quarterbacks. He's a very much a like pocket passer and like cut the defense apart kind of passer. So from what I've seen, I'm not that big into college football, but from what I've seen, I think I like CJ Stroud, and I think he's gonna go top 3 in the draft easily. Before we move on to people's topic, today was the Winter Classic at Fenway. I will say that was probably the coolest. I at first I thought it was a little stupid, but it warmed up to me how the Bruins walked in with all old Red Sox gear on. Then they were playing, catch on the side. Kike Hernandez makes an appearance because he's now the face of the Boston Red Sox because we are idiots and let go of Xander Bogaerts. He's making an appearance. The Bruins do their thing. They get a win on the home ice at Fenway. They hand that moron up in the owner's box a nice fat L for his Penguins team. I hope he follows the Penguins and leaves the Boston Red Sox. He gets booed at his own stadium, but John Henry gets booed all over the place today at Fenway. But overall, great. I love the Winter Classic. It's a fun game. It's fun to see them play at Fenway, and I wish I got to go, but watch a little bit of from the comforts of my living room today.
Yeah. Super fun game. Always nice to see it at Fenway. Second time it's been there. Fall behind 1-0. Got a little bit worried. Third period, just about halfway through, they tie it. I'm like, all right, we're cooking with gas. DeBrus scores the go-ahead goal, 2-1. I'm like, all right, cool, we sealed it. And then for the Penguins to almost tie the game at the death had me like heart in my stomach coming out of my throat. I just got to say thank God that puck hit his stick at 0-0 because I thought the Bruins had just blown that game. So a win is a win.
Win's a win. And they handed John Henry another loss. So that's also what matters. It really is crazy that we played John Henry's team at Fenway against the Bruins, and on the cusp, right? On the what's the word? On the like days following him just absolutely sinking this franchise. So always nice to see John Henry lose and get booed. So sell the team, John Henry, you stink. Most hated men in Boston right now: John Henry, Heim Bloom, or Matt Patricia.
Matt Patricia, but John Henry's a close second.
See, I'd put John Henry first. I think Heim Bloom's I think he's kind of guilty by association, but John Henry's thinking. Well, I guess Matt Patricia is too. I don't know. I put a lot of venom on. It's close. That's a close debate. All right, let's move on to our final segment of the night, the people's topic.
It's the people's topic, baby! People's topic.
So for people's topic, you write it on our Instagram and Twitter page at Big Red Zone. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about. First people's topic of the new year, Danny Football, and we got some good ones. Mrs. Big Red says me. Mrs. Big Red made a little appearance on the podcast last week.
She did.
First appearance
10 out of 10 performance there.
Great job. She was very excited. As much as she wanted to play cool, she was excited to make her appearance. She did a great job. Got to give her credit. Eric writes, Jalen Hurts sitting this week and losing me the ship. Eagles banking on week 18 win. Eagles are in an interesting spot. I mean, they may fall out of that 1 seed bye, and
Things are gonna get interesting, man.
things are starting to get interesting in Philadelphia. I don't know. It's got to now. You have to win week 18 to get that bye week. I know Jason Kelsey says he doesn't care about the bye week. He just wants to get things right, which I guess you're right. But things get right on bye weeks, my friend. They figure things out. So definitely not a great sign in Philadelphia. Go Vikings. Go 49ers. Vicky writes, I didn't do terrible in my first year of fantasy football.
Congrats.
Vicky joined one of my fantasy football leagues. I needed a person who never played before, and made it to the semifinals. Lost in the semifinals. Got the first taste of heartache of fantasy football. So, welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club.
This one comes from Lauren. She writes, I mean, a guy just collapsed on the field. I'm sure you'll talk about that. Yeah, scary moments in Buffalo. I mean, we kind of mentioned it, but yeah, definitely a scary moment. They suspended the game for now, but I hope everyone. What's his name? Who was the player? Because I didn't even really get to see much of the. I just heard my phone was blowing up.
DeMar Hamlin.
Damar Hamlin. I hope Damar Hamlin's all right. Yeah, scary moment. Prayers up for Damar Hamlin. Let's go to Instagram. Dave Griffin writes, Mac being Jones called a dirty player. What do you think about that? Is Mac Jones a dirty player?
He puts himself in some weird situations, man. I'll say no, but he tends to find himself answering these every now and then. Yeah, I'm gonna say no, but weird.
Yeah, like I agree. Like I feel like I'm gonna put myself in the position to be called like a biased fan right now, but he definitely does some stupid things on the field to put himself in bad situations. I think you hit it perfectly. He puts himself in some bad situations. Now, just because I'm saying this doesn't make it right. I mean, they're talking about how he slides with his cleat up. I mean, Joey Burrow does that every single time he slides. Like, if you look at Joey Burrow completion of him sliding, like when sliding, getting down, he slides with his cleat up all the time. So, and he did it to the Patriots just a couple weeks ago. Doesn't make it right. I'm just saying it. Like, if we're going to talk about Mac Jones, let's talk about all the quarterbacks that do that. But I think you're right. I think Mac Jones, I'm going to say no, but he definitely does not help himself in certain situations. Like, I think he's got to cool it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is his third or fourth fine for, like, those kind of things this season. So, but anyways, last one comes from Joseph_Celia. He writes, how do the Broncos fix their mess? That's a great question. I don't really. I think they took the first step into solving their mess, which is firing Nathaniel Hackett. I think that was the first step.
It's a start, but the fact that Russell Wilson is still on the books for so many years and so much money, they really are handcuffed. I don't know how you fix this overnight, man, unless you somehow trade him, but I don't know who's taking on that contract. Maybe Russ just shows up next season, who knows? But I don't think this is an easy fix.
Yeah, I think like they got to think positively and think Nathaniel Hackett cost them so many games. They got to hope it's like an Urban Meyer situation where Urban Meyer just sunk that team, and the next year they bring in a competent head coach, and things change. They got to hope that Russell Wilson kind of comes back to what he was for so long next year with a competent head coach. Will that happen? It remains to be seen. I don't know, but I gotta think if I'm a betting man, which I am, I'm gonna bet that Russell Wilson's gonna be better than he was. this year, he's going to be better than he was next year. He's going to be better next year. I think that team is just too good. I think Russell Wilson is good. I'm not saying they're going to, set the world on fire. I'm going to be a little cautious in my fantasy football drafts next year, going all in on the Broncos like I did this year. But you got to think they got to be better. I mean, they're going to get Javonte Williams back. They're going to get, a healthy, a real healthy, Judy and Sutton, who have been banged up. They're going to get some people to the draft. Hopefully they get a competent head coach. So I got to think they're going to be better.
It's hard to be worse. So
yeah. So I think the main step that they got to see, it's kind of like what the Patriots are in. Their coach was just so bad. It's hard to see what you got. I mean, Russ was bad too, but their coach was just so bad. He cost them so many games. I mean, including week 1 when he doesn't call one of his timeouts in the final minute and a half of the game, and settles for a 60-yard field goal. That's just poor game management by your head coach. So you got to think they're going to be better next year. And you're going to have to just hope and see, you're not going to be able to just get a new quarterback in here with the amount of money they give Russ. So hope and add. That's what I would say. That's how this team fixes the mess. And then next year, if Russ is, again, terrible, then it's maybe time to, eat the money and find someone else. But yeah, that's a messy situation down in Denver.
Definitely.
So I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's it for People's Topic this week. Remember, you can write it on Instagram and Twitter pages at Big Red Zone. Leave us a comment. Let us know what we want to talk about. Also, give us a follow when you're there. You can also follow us on TikTok at Big Red Zone. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the like button on this video as well as other videos. Make sure you hit that notification bell to make sure you know when all our episodes come out. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get our podcasts. My thanks, as always, to Danny Football for joining. First pod of the new year, Danny Football.
Coming down the stretch here, 6 weeks left.
Coming down the stretch. But thanks for listening, and have a great week, everyone.